Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and it's really a great honor to address the UK's leading business leaders, and at such a pivotal time for the UK economy and for all of our businesses. As Andrew said, I joined the Royal Mail as the CEO just shy of 2 years ago. I did know a bit about the business because I had run Canada Post for a little over 5 years before that. I've always been an Anglophile, and I'm now absolutely delighted to call London my adopted home. And it is just a tremendous privilege to run the oldest postal delivery company in the world. But you know, I have to admit that sometimes being the oldest has a drawback or two. People do have a habit of viewing the Royal Mail with a 50-year-old perspective. It's not unusual for people to write to me complaining that the service was much better not too long ago when they received 3 deliveries a day, one at breakfast time, one at lunch, and one later on at tea time. And there's no doubt about it that even though change is happening everywhere around us, and in this business over the past 10 years it has been monumental, it is still the case that change is difficult for people to accept. I am always very mindful of the wonderful heritage of the Royal Mail. I value and respect it, and I know that this company is a cherished icon in the United Kingdom. But a lot has changed in the past decade, and if this iconic company is going to survive and flourish, we have to adapt too. Today, I really would like to bust a couple of myths, if I can put it that way, about the Royal Mail, tell you about the challenges that we have faced and are facing, and let you know about the scale and the type of massive change that is underway. One of the first things that surprises anyone to learn about the Royal Mail is the scale of it. We deliver 59 million items to over 29 million addresses, 6 days a week, overnight delivery, with the highest minimum service standard in the world, in all kinds of weather. In order to do that, we have to have a vast transportation network that operates 24 hours a day. We need to collect the mail from 115,000 pillar boxes, 80,000 businesses, 14,000 post offices. We need to operate one of the biggest fleets anywhere, about 34,000 vehicles on the road, 54 flights a day, 11 trains. And as Andrew said, it takes a lot of dedicated people, really devoted to what they are doing, to make this happen. 160,000 of them, operating out of 59 mail processing facilities, 11 regional distribution centers, and about 1,350 delivery offices. The next thing that always gets a pause when I talk about the Royal Mail is the business mix. Most people think of the mail in terms of the white envelopes, and there's no question there are fewer of those, as Andrew mentioned, with the advent of other communication technologies that have exploded onto the scene in the past decade. But our business involves much more than the white envelopes. Each year, for example, our European and UK express parcels businesses, General Logistics Systems, Parcel Force Worldwide, and of course our core parcels network, we handle almost 450 million parcels. And I think we are the most trusted player in this intensely competitive business today. We also handle about £1 billion worth of your marketing materials. Marketing materials that are helping UK businesses put forward their goods and service offerings to UK residents. All told, about 65% of our revenue today is not coming from white envelopes. Also, our business is much more than a UK business. We are operating all over Europe and in fact all over the world in terms of our export of parcels mostly, but also large packets and envelopes. In fact, about 20% of our business is coming from other parts of the world. And, you know, Andrew mentioned consumer mail. For all of the, I think, furor that we see whenever postal rates go up, it is the case today that only about 5% of our revenues comes from those very precious consumer mailings, especially the consumer mailings at Christmas time. People are also taken aback when they come to realize that what was a monopoly 15 years ago is certainly no longer a monopoly in the UK. We are operating in the UK in one of the most liberalized markets in the world. There are no barriers to entry in this business, and in fact, for the past 12 years or so, the UK, ahead of many other countries in Europe, completely liberalized postal markets. You have more choice today in the United Kingdom for delivery services than you do for supermarkets, for utility companies, or even fast food chains. In the parcel delivery business alone, there are over 50 national players, and locally and regionally, there are hundreds and thousands of players to deliver products on your behalf. As I mentioned, the market started to be liberalized in the UK well before other countries in Europe. The regulatory framework that was put in at that time was one that I feel has been a real drawback to the continuation of a sustainable universal service in Britain. In fact, I believe the regulatory approach that was taken in the United Kingdom was wrong-headed. It was an approach that induced new players into a rapidly declining market. It brought on stream new sortation capacity in the UK when the Royal Mail was struggling and spending hundreds of millions of pounds to take sortation capacity out of our system. In addition, the regulatory framework forced the Royal Mail to deliver the competitor's mail at a margin guaranteed to the competitor, but at a loss to the Royal Mail. And the Royal Mail was not able to compete on price to keep that mail in our system. So when you think about the very high level of service that was expected of the Royal Mail, a level of service that was regulated for the Royal Mail and no other participant, and the fact that we have to report our performance as measured by independent third parties, a matter that is not shared by others in our market, I think it is fair to say that this regulatory framework had a stranglehold on the business. It was, in fact, impossible for the Royal Mail to be financially successful. How many of you in this audience, all of you running businesses of your own, how would you feel if you could not launch a new product without 3 months' notice to allow your competitors to object to it or to take the idea? How many of you could operate a successful business if you were banned from withdrawing a product that people no longer needed, unless you first had the permission of your customers, the regulator, and your competitors? We could not even amend any specification around a product, even specifications that we could not meet. We could not change a single condition in any customer contract. We could not change any of our prices, including prices in the parcel and packet business, a completely competitive business, without regulatory consent and months of notice and consultation. In fact, just recently, when we increased the stamp prices, you know, really, this is a product that people can store and profiteer on. We were forced to give 1 month's notice to the effect that everyone saw. When I arrived at Heathrow 21 months ago, this was my inheritance. The company was basically balance sheet insolvent. It had been cash negative for a goodly number of years. The historic pension deficit was simply unmanageable. The promises that we had made to our people about their retirement income, we could not keep. We were losing hundreds of millions of pounds in the core business. In fact, over £1 billion had accumulated in losses over a 4-year period. When I arrived in July, I was told by our financial officials that there was a real danger that we could run out of cash before the end of the year, and something that I had never experienced in my business career, and you will understand how important this is as directors. We were doing going concern determinations for the Royal Mail with each board meeting. As most of you know, we face a global decline in postal volumes. More and more businesses and consumers have found alternate ways to communicate. Mail volumes in the United Kingdom have fallen by 25% in 5 years, and some pundits suggest that the rate of decline may be steeper in the future. There is no reason to believe that these volumes are going to increase. Royal Mail had no capital. It was starved for capital over many years. It needed desperately to invest in automation and IT technology, and that was very difficult. Our only source of funds was Her Majesty's government. Against this backdrop, and with all of those challenges, Royal Mail is still the premier delivery service company of its kind in the world. We are expected to meet a very high minimum service delivery standard, 93% on-time delivery the next working day for first class, and 98.5% on-time delivery for second class. To operate at that very high level of standard with such an increasing number of addresses for us to service, it takes a very high quality and big network. It's essentially a fixed cost network. I cannot afford to have anything but dedicated, devoted people, and thank goodness that is what the UK has in Royal Mail postmen and women. I cannot afford to have an insecure workforce, a workforce that is vulnerable, that has no guarantee of hours, a 35 or 40% turnover rate. Our people have to be ready to go to 29 million addresses and growing by 300,000 every year, no matter if they have 1 envelope to deliver, 20 envelopes to deliver, or none at all. So that wasn't enough in the way of challenge to fill a lifetime. We just got handed another one last week. TNT, one of our largest competitors, has launched a scheme in West London to do end-to-end delivery. They will not only sort their mail, but they will deliver some of it, only that which they wish to deliver. The rest of it, they will give to the Royal Mail to deliver for them. This directly challenges the sustainability of a universal service in Britain. I am very up for competition, but it has to be a fair fight. This competitor can choose to deliver wherever and whenever it wants. 3 days a week, 2 days a week. They can choose only the profitable routes which have dense mailings. This is not something that a universal service provider can do. Of course they can offer lower prices. Their workforce is paid at roughly £7 per hour. It's highly variable. There are no guaranteed hours. They can afford to do that because this workforce does not have to go to 29 million addresses 6 days a week. So, you know, I want you to understand that there may be short-term gain from this for some of you, for some businesses, but it will be a long-term disaster for a high-quality universal service in Great Britain. To add salt to that wound, we are still mandated by the regulator to deliver the mail that they do not wish to deliver themselves. And up until very recently, we were delivering at a loss. For me, that is a very big gulp. And as somebody who ran this business in Canada, I can tell you I never faced anything remotely like that kind of challenge. I don't believe we should have to deliver mail that they do not choose to deliver. If they wish to deliver, let them deliver. There are no barriers to entry in the United Kingdom. I cannot believe that a regulator whose primary duty is not competition, whose primary duty is the protection of the universal service in Britain, or our government would force us to do that. And I am guessing that most of you in this room, if you were sitting in my seat, you would feel the same. So what are we doing to change the Royal Mail and to make sure that we can have a sustainable universal service in Britain? We know we have a great deal to do, but we have already accomplished a lot. No business can afford to operate without high regard to the cost structure. And certainly if you are in a declining market, you must pay very, very close attention to cost cutting. It is very painful, but sadly it is essential. We have reduced our workforce at the Royal Mail by over 50,000 people in the past decade. I know of no other company where the scale of reduction has been at that level. In the past 2 years alone, almost 10,000 people, 2,000 of them managers, dedicated people, people who had given their lives to the high quality service which the UK enjoys. We are now finally beginning the process of investing in the modernization of our operations. We will need to change many of our processes and procedures so that our people are equipped to take on this new traffic mix, to take on more packets and parcels and fewer white envelopes. Thankfully, the electronic revolution is giving us an avenue for growth, and that is in the packet and parcel end of our delivery service. But every aspect of our delivery people's jobs will have to change. They are used to coming in the morning, sorting up their route, going out independently on their route with their white envelopes in a bag on their backs. They are not used to having to carry the level of packets and parcels that is part of the traffic mix today. And as we automate the mail, there isn't the requirement for our people to sort up their own routes. That means they are spending more time outdoors, their working hours have been extended, they start later in the day, and of course, in many cases, they're motorized in vans and having to go out in pairs. So every aspect of that job has had to change. And people like you who are running businesses with challenges that you must face, you know that This is wrenching change, and it is very, very hard on people and families who are used to doing the job in a particular way. We have worked very hard in the Royal Mail in the past 20 months to raise the profile of what needs to change in order to secure a sustainable universal service. And I think we are having some success. You will have heard when our Chancellor rose on Budget Day that historical large pension deficit has been lifted off our balance sheet, and that arrangement has finally been approved by the European Commission. This is a great achievement. You will have also heard around the same time that we now have a different regulator, and I believe a better regulator in Ofcom. The regulatory stranglehold that had made it impossible for the company to be successful has been greatly relaxed. We are now free to set our prices. Of course, we have to be very careful and laser sharp about that because we are in an intensely competitive environment. And apart from a safeguard cap on second-class stamps, I think that we are seeing from Ofcom the understanding that this company needs a lot more freedom to act in a commercial way if we are to enjoy a sustainable universal service. I can't leave this podium without addressing the recent price increase. The decision to increase our prices was a very difficult one, and I wish to reassure you that it was not taken lightly. But there again, there may be a couple of myths. You probably did not know that the average UK household spends only 50 pence a week on postage, £21 a year. So this is not like electricity or gas in terms of an important part of household expenditure. In fact, households spend more on chocolate than they do on postage. Our charges, while a significant increase, really I would ask you to look at in terms of the base from which we were making the increase. The Royal Mail charges the same price up to 100 grams first and second class. No other large European country does that. In the 51 to 100 gram weight band, the new second class price at 50 pence is the lowest in Europe. For items between 21 grams and 50 grams, the UK 50 pence is the second lowest. Did you know that the very high quality of service I talked about earlier is the highest compared to all other major European countries? And this is so today, even with all of the challenges that the company has faced for a decade. I know customers were upset about this price increase, and I understand why completely. I know that it's very difficult. This is a difficult economy. But in terms of trying to restore this wonderful service to a financial footing that will make it stable for the future, there really was no other alternative. We know that much more needs to be done. Like every other post across the world, we must find new ways to use that network. Our goal is to become the best delivery and media company in the United Kingdom. As I mentioned earlier, we already have £1 billion of revenue in marketing mail, and we see growth opportunities in that area as well as the packets and parcel businesses. We will do that by continuing to be the trusted carrier for important business communications, by garnering an even larger share of the parcel market, and by becoming a direct marketing partner to you to help you grow your businesses, and a full-service direct marketing partner. So how are we doing? Well, we are now cash positive this month for the first time in many years. We are making a modest profit. We have reduced the losses in the core business. Our profit is coming from other parts of our business, not the core business. And we have managed, just by painstaking cost reduction and, of course, price increase, to improve our operating margin from a meager 0.5% to 1.5%. That is nowhere near a commercial rate of return, but at least we are headed in the right direction. We continue to focus more and more energy every single day on reducing our costs. And as you will see, I invite any of you who would like to see our mail processing facilities that have been modernized, or come to a delivery office that has had the delivery revision pass through. I invite you to see the scale of change that's underway. I really hope I've told you a few things about the Royal Mail, a few pleasant things that you didn't know. We were a company that really, for all intents and purposes, was insolvent. And we have been taken back now from the brink of bankruptcy. We are determined to catch up, to compete for your business, to win back business that we have lost. In fact, we have lost about 50% of business mailings to our competitors over the past 4 years. We are intent on winning some of that business back. And I know that we are going through some of the toughest economic times since the 1930s. And the reform of a business is never easy. But I really believe that we're on the brink of a change that I wish it had happened a decade ago, better late than never. There is a strong future now to look forward to. The next step is to get access to capital. We need to modernize technology, automate the parcel and packet business, and move forward to continue to add more value in direct marketing. Being free from the shackles of state ownership will be a very important part of the recreation of a sustainable universal service. And as I have mentioned to you earlier, there's a great deal to do, but there's a team in place everywhere in every part of the UK that is dedicated to doing just that. Thank you very much for listening to me this afternoon.